Now he can't even make decisions about his own treatment, and the will be challenged. Isn't that what it was all about? The Delon family's laundry has become too dirty. It must stop. For many years now, newspaper reporters have been relishing the details of the great actor's feud with his children. The victory belongs to the Delons Jr. Alain Delon was declared incapacitated. Now he cannot dispose of his own property, buy or sell real estate, and carry out other transactions, and any medical decisions will be made by a lawyer. In addition, the other day, a whole arsenal was found in the actor's house, 72 guns and 3,000 rounds of ammunition. Let's figure out what happens to the idol of the past and why children hate him so much. Handsome Delon was officially married only once. Natalie Barthélemy gave birth to his son Anthony, and over time the young man followed in his parents' footsteps and became an actor and businessman. After his divorce from Natalie, Delon met for a long time with the Australian fashion model Rosalie van Bremen, who became his unofficial wife and gave him a daughter, Anushka, and a son, Alain Fabien. The relationship between Delon and his sons has never been particularly warm. In his youth, he did not devote enough time to the family, and after that the struggle began. The only outlet is Anushka's daughter, beloved and adored. I have a daughter who is the love of my life, perhaps even too strong compared to others. The conflict between the father and his eldest son began when Anthony Delon started manufacturing clothes under the AD brand in 1980. Alain Delon was categorically against the use of initials, which he and his son had the same, because he also had his own brand Alain Delon, under which the actor produced accessories, perfumes, and even cognac. Another reason for disagreement was different political views, and the intemperate Delon often swore with his son right on the air of various television shows. Alain Fabien did not stay away either. The French had fun reading in the newspapers about the riotous parties of Delon's youngest son, and once Alain Fabien wounded a 16-year-old girlfriend in a drunken stupor. Later, he wrote a book of memoirs, where he talked about how rude and indifferent his famous father was. Naturally, all these antics did not contribute to fatherly love, and according to the will announced by Delon to his children, half of his fortune will be received by his daughter Anushka, and the other half will be divided between his sons. And there is something to share. Alain Delon is considered one of the richest people in Europe, and we are talking about a lot of money. The art collection alone was sold in 2023 for 8 million euros. And this was another signal for the sons. They need to act urgently. The brothers accuse Anushka of lying and manipulation, as well as of turning her father against them. In 2019, Alain Delon suffered a stroke. The tests showed cognitive distortions, and this gave the children an excuse to begin the process of declaring their father incompetent. At the same time, Alain Delon himself was outraged that this was slander, and he would sue for spreading information about his personal life and health. Anushka, Anthony, and Alain Fabien, forgetting their differences, teamed up to remove his assistant Hiromi Roland from his father. The woman had been with Delon for many years, but the children accused her of mistreatment and abuse of her father's weakness, and actually kicked her out of the house. The prosecutor sent Delon for a medical examination to determine whether the actor had really lost all discernment. According to the test results, Monsieur Alain Delon answered the questions, thereby confirming that his insight was not lost, despite the defamatory statements made in the media. At the beginning of 2024, Alain Delon was declared incapacitated. He cannot independently make real estate transactions and make decisions concerning his health. This makes it quite possible that the actor's will can also be challenged. The sons consider the distribution of half of the inheritance between them unfair. And back to the issue of weapons. The police found 72 weapons and 3,000 rounds of ammunition in the house of 80-year-old Alain Delon. The problem is that he did not have a permit to buy and store these weapons. At the same time, Anushka Delon explains to the press that weapons have always been his father's hobby. He collects them. I wonder why the police decided to search the actor's house. It's sad to read something like that. The once magnificent, handsome, famous actor, beloved by the public, is now turned by his own children into an incapacitated old man, who is expected only when he leaves the stage as soon as possible and allows them to share the money. In his youth, French actor Alain Delon was insanely handsome, and almost all the girls in the world were in love with him. The actor was in an unregistered marriage with Dutch model Rosalie van Bremen and had a brief affair with model Nico. Alain Delon and German singer and model Nico met in 1959 during the filming of the film In the Bright Sun and fell in love with each other. But if for Delon it was a passing romance, then for Nico it was a serious relationship. The girl was crazy about the famous Frenchman, and after learning about her pregnancy, she did not have an abortion and gave birth to a child. The boy was born in France on August 11, 1962. 24-year-old Nico tried to contact her former lover to inform him about the birth of her son, but Alain avoided communicating with her in every possible way. When Ari turned 4, he almost died after swallowing his mother's pills. Then Nico, who continued to secretly love Delon, wrote a letter to the actor's mother, Edith Ballon. In it, she said that it was hard for her to work and raise a boy born from their famous son. The grandmother immediately rushed to New York and took her grandson to France, where he was adopted by her second husband, Paul Ballon. So Ari began to live in two families, with his mother, then with his grandmother, while Alain Delon categorically refused to recognize his son. Ari believes that Delon was angry at his mother for not only recognizing her grandson, but also devoting herself to his upbringing. While he was placed in foster care at the age of 4, after the divorce from Alain's father, Edith was forced to do this in order to recover and gain financial independence. Undoubtedly, I had an unhappy childhood. How do you realize that your parents got rid of you when you were only 4 years old? They divorced, they started a new life, and I ended up in foster care as an orphan. My mom came sometimes, but my dad never did. They rebuilt their lives, had other children. I wasn't their priority, Delon said of his childhood. At first, Edith calmly let the boy go to Nico, and she, addicted to illegal substances since childhood, began to treat her son with them. After learning about this, Edith decided to protect the child from her mother. In addition, the scandal that broke out after the murder of the actor's bodyguard, in which Delon himself was suspected, forced Edith to send her grandson away from Sind to a closed Catholic college in St. Louis, where he spent 9 years. Since Nico performed as part of the Velvet Underground band, many were familiar with her work and vicious addictions, so Ari had a hard time at school. He was often beaten by his peers. It was only after graduating from college that Ari was able to see his mother again, and this did not lead to anything good. At the age of 16, Ari almost died of an overdose. When Ari returned home, Edith arranged for him to work in a pastry shop, where the guy mastered the profession of a pastry chef. Later, the artist's heir studied to be a photographer and even managed to star in a movie. She is one of the few and perhaps the most difficult conversation between father and son took place after the funeral of his guardian Paul Ballon. Throughout the funeral ceremony, Alain Delon pretended not to notice Ari, and on leaving the church unexpectedly offered the guy to take him to the nearest metro station. Remember, you're just my buddy, that's all. And I'll tell you what, buddy, you don't have my eyes, you don't have my hair. You're not my son at all, and you never will be. I only slept with your mother once, Delon told Ari as the guy got out of the car. Nevertheless, many people found that Ari looked very much like an actor. This was especially noted by taxi drivers. As soon as Ari got into the car, the driver asked, "Are you by any chance the son of Alain Delon?" And at first, the young man tried his best to prove to Alain that he was his son, and then he realized it was useless. After all, Delon not only did not want to do a DNA test and came up with all sorts of excuses. Once he even said that he did not know who Nico had given birth to and did not want to take responsibility for other people's sins. And although I was without money, without a permanent job, an ordinary downtrodden junkie who needed the simplest support, or at least just participation, I did not want to accept help from such a father, Ari said. In 2015, the actor's illegitimate son had a stroke, after which he was admitted to a psychiatric hospital, where he restored his nervous system, battered by an unhealthy life. And on May 20, 2023, Ari Ballon was found dead in his Paris apartment.